Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And there are 2 empty seats up here, so whoever is standing in the back and if you'd like to sit, come on up. Just don't throw anything at us. All right, so we're going to start with the public hearing on short-term rental regulations. Now, I just want to preface this by saying that this is a public hearing. We're not going to be passing any legislation tonight, so we're just going to hear the public. And we'll keep the public hearing open and then we'll figure out where to go from there after we have all the feedback. We did receive a lot of emails as well on this topic, and I'm sure there's quite a few people here that want to talk to it as well. So I'd like to go ahead and motion that we open the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so who would like to come up and speak?
You have 3 minutes,
3.
and if you could state your name and hamlet, please.
Yes. Thank you, Janet.
Hi, my name's Karen Conti and I live in South Salem. And I'm here speaking in part as a housing committee member who made a recommendation to this board, as well as a concerned citizen. When you charge the housing committee in response to the governor's laws that require registration and regulation of short-term rentals, we in the housing committee took that responsibility very seriously. And we researched maybe 10 or 12 different communities and counties before we gave you our recommendation. And, we felt that we had balanced community and business. I wanted to point out that the town's proposal differs from the housing committee's recommendations in several ways, including the duration of total rental days allowed expanded from 60 to 120 to 180 days. No mention is made of the maximum number of renters or guests on a given period or day. No mention of restrictions tied to septic limits, which I think are kind of related, and no mention of property characteristics like zoning and size of a property, as well as community considerations, and those were all removed. And I hope that while you all have a shortened version of what we did, that you'll go back and look at what we did for reference, because our committee was pretty representative of the community. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Linda Van Tassel Clark from 22 Cove Road. I'm way across the bridge that's missing. I just have a few, or the culvert. I just have a few questions on what was sent out with the short-term rentals. And one of them is on the page that states SXX for operations and eligibility. It says STR, or short-term rental, must be on the premises and owner's primary residence. What determines the primary residence? That's my question. Because there are multiple homes that are being used for Airbnb. People have more than one. Which one is their primary residence? There's one that has a house and a cottage. Which is their primary residence? Do they live in South Salem or have they just bought the house? My other question was about enforcement. Who is going to enforce that the people follow the rules and regulation? My last thing is, only because I go to the Cape all the time and rent for my family, and when I go up there and rent a place, they count children. But it said the children 8 years and under are not included. But 4 or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds are using the septic. So if you have 3 couples going, renting the house, that's 6 people. Each one has 2 children, that's 6 more. That's 12 people using the septic. And when I go up to the Cape, we're only allowed, a certain amount, including the children, because of the septic. And that's what we need to worry about. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come up and speak?
On this matter or general matters?
This is the public hearing on the short-term rentals only. Yes.
Hi, my name's Karen Foley. I'm in South Salem. I'm just gonna read a little bit. So I'm confused that the town is unnecessarily looking to follow what other towns have done. There's thousands of towns in New York, and to hear that you looked at 10 or 12, that's concerning. This is replacing property right restrictions on long-term residents, but in what feels like the face of NIMBYism, similar to what a private homeowners insurance association can do, but the town is not a private association. This is a public entity. And I don't believe the law as drafted benefits the public at large. And the town, as I understand it, has the option to opt out of this type of regulation. And then when I read the law, I'm trying to figure out whose health is being harmed by current operations, whose safety is in danger. These short-term rentals are homes that exist and they're being used as homes during short-term rentals. It's not a new use. When a vacation homeowner comes to their house for 2 weeks in the summer, how is that different from a renter using it for 2 weeks in the summer? I don't know how you can tell the difference. And especially how that difference could be harming the health and safety of the community. I hear chatter about trying to protect against people who are abusing the system, but I haven't really heard evidence of that. I mean, maybe there's been a party somewhere, but then you call the police and, when you call the police usually don't show up and say, your neighbor so-and-so called, they just say someone called. So to be afraid to call the police seems a little bit funny if there's noise. So it kind of feels like this is all driven by scare tactics or like trying to keep people out of our community, when I think we should be doing the opposite and inviting people into this community because it's aging. And I think we need new faces and new blood to experience the community. We own a short-term rental, if you couldn't tell. So a lot of our renters are coming to check out the community before they move in. They want to test drive it for a couple of weeks and see if they actually like it or not. If they get people calling them out as strangers, that's not going to want them to move here. It's other people coming to visit family, a birth, a funeral, a wedding. There's not many hotels around these parts, so there's not many options for those types of people to stay. And I just think the way it's written out, it's a bit arbitrary, a little bit capricious. I mean, you're putting limitations on something that doesn't have any harm that I can see, limiting the number of nights. It really puts a huge financial burden on people who have been doing this for years responsibly and setting up their financial security in this manner, putting investments into their property for this purpose to get a longer term use out of their property. It's putting limitations. 60 days would put us under. We couldn't pay our taxes anymore. We'd have to leave the town. We've had this in place for so many years now that it has become our normal financial way of living. And if you want taxes out of it, fine, we can register, but okay. So just in summary, just I hope you'll reconsider and, it's inflation, it's financial, it's a lot of restrictions for no good reason. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to come up and speak about short-term rentals? Who's next?
Thank you, board and everyone, for allowing me to speak today. I did send you a letter. It's actually over 10 pages long. I'm quite into this sort of short-term rental thing, so unfortunately.
You have to introduce yourself and say where you're from.
I will, yeah.
And you have 3 minutes.
So I'm going to try and condense this down to 3 minutes and give you the highlights only.
But could you state your full name, please?
So my name is T. Rewa, and I'm an architect and a master planner, and I've helped many of the neighbours here with their renovations and houses. I'm also the president of Lake Oskalita to help repave their road for 20 years in Ingles. I'm a board member of the Three Lakes Council, and I'm also an Airbnb superhost. And to many of you here, I'm I'm a bad actor, disease to be managed and eradicated. And, firstly, I'd like to rebut to the Planning and Housing Committee. I did want to speak to them, but I didn't get opportunity. And as to septics, we already have a septic law. But I have 10 things here that I really wanted to talk about. I doubt whether I'll be able to get through with them. So maybe I can just start and then maybe go for the summary or something like that. Firstly, I've been doing this for 5 years. I'm one of 5 people in my community. I've had over 500 hosts and not one single complaint. So this talk about bad actors is just rubbish. It's absolute nonsense. First myth point that I'd like to say is that Airbnbs are not frat houses. Airbnb is adamantly anti-parties and it's self-correcting. One bad review and you're out. The algorithm will kick you out. Other people take your listing and you won't make any money. So, and as I say, I did a FOIA request and there weren't any complaints with the police over the last 12 months, including short-term rentals. So, and no evidence has been provided by anyone from the Planning or Housing Committee to support this law. I don't see any harm, and no harm has been presented. Thousands of people have stayed in Lewisboro without a problem. Me, at least 500 people, and 4 million people stay nightly at Airbnb over the world without problems. It's based on trust. If you abuse that trust, you're out. Nobody wants any problems. So number 2, it's about tax. We pay a lot of tax. I pay tax like normal people, and then any income I make on my Airbnb, I also pay tax. I also automatically have to pay New York State occupancy tax of 4%. Sometimes that's $500 a month, sometimes that's $1,000 a month. That goes straight to Albany. They already have that money. They know who I am. It's already registered. So I pay more tax for you. I pay for your children and your roads, and I pay twice as much as you already. You're welcome. Short-term rentals take away houses off the market. This again is not proven. It's just nonsense. Most short-term rentals are better use of vacation homes or first homes. Sure, there might be someone who purchases it as an investment, but they're local and they might want to use it themselves for various other reasons. So if you ban short-term rentals as people have, it's a failed policy and it doesn't work. So all the other 6 or 7 myths and all the other things like that, I'd love to talk to you about more.
Thank you,
and
T.
explain, but
Thanks.
you have to. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, actually, yeah, Michael's been waiting, so, okay, one more in the back. Sorry, Mike.
Hello, my name is Jill Cowell, and I'm here with my husband, Jordy Sarah. We are residents of South Salem. I wrote to the board, and I don't know if you had a chance to read the letter, but for the benefit of others in the room, I'm just going to read an abridged version. We write as homeowners, neighbors, community members, and lessors. We bought our home in South Salem in 2021, and as we began to transition back to New York after living abroad for 25 years. Initially, we purchased 24 Cove Road, South Salem, as our retirement home. And we realized that this would not be suitable for our growing family. We have 8 children between us, mostly out of the home, but the family is growing. So we ended up buying another home on the lake. We stretched to make the purchase, which would allow us to house our 8 children and their partners when they visit. We rented this home, which is 34 Old Pond Road, for the 2 years while we were transitioning over. We've stopped renting it. And we vetted quite responsibly, I think. We work with a local agent, and we turn down more people than we accept. We have very stringent requirements for the kind of people that we will take. and those who will respect that this is not a party house mainly, and this is a family community. The vast majority of the short-term renters are families of town residents. And I would say of those, half of them are with us because of a pipe burst or a fire or a renovation. We have a family moving in tomorrow, a police officer with a pipe burst nearby town. They signed on for 2 months. And these are the kinds of families that we seek. We're not milking the house. It's a break-even model. We need the extra money to make it work. And I guess what I would ask the committee is, and for everybody in the room to think about, is we don't know where life's going to take us. 10 years from now, you may want to be in Florida, you may want to go to Arizona, you may need those 3 or 4 months to keep the house for you for the rest of the year. It's really, really nice to have that option. I have many bullet points, which I won't have a chance to read, but I will just end with our closing comments, which is our understanding is the previous owner was a significant problem for the neighbors with a threatening dead tree hanging over the 2 houses before we bought it. The house was in complete disarray. And finally, just one sentence. We ask that the town consider the many solid community members who are renting their homes and the impact that this will have on their lives and the reverberations in the community.
Great. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
Mike.
Good evening, Michael Soriano. I submitted a letter earlier today, so I'll be brief. I raised 2 points in the letter. One is your definition of landlord and owner. It omits reference to properties owned by trusts. And I can tell you from my own practice, we're doing revocable trusts and moving homes into the trust on a regular basis. I think if you talk to your tax assessor and your receiver of taxes, they'll tell you that more and more trusts are owning residential properties. So that's an omission that has to be fixed. And then, of course, by the nature of a trust, when you get to owner occupancy or domicile, by definition, a trust doesn't have a primary residence. In my client's case, there's 3 generations of the family enjoy the use of this home on Lake Wacabuck off of Perch Bay Road. And the property is held in part by a trust, a family trust. And I don't think to meet the objectives of your ordinance, you need to impose a primary residence requirement. There's other ways to get at that. You can limit the total number of days or months that a property can be leased out for short-term rentals, and that way dissuade absentee landlords from just buying up properties as investments when they learn they can't rent them year-round. And I address all of this in the constitutional implications in my letter. One thing, I'll step down in a second. One thing I didn't mention in the letter is your notice requirements seem to be onerous, 500 feet notice. This is essentially, the way it's written, an administrative permit issued out of the building department, just like a building permit. And it just seems onerous to require a permittee to notify every neighbor. And in the more dense residential districts, that can be 20, 30, 40, 50 people have to get certified letters. So I think that's unnecessary. And I'm happy to address and help your board draft a better ordinance. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Andrea Lombardi, South Salem. On this topic, very shortly, I'm concerned about the ratio Airbnbs versus full-time owners because we already closed a school because of low enrollment. Are we going to close another one? I'm just concerned about the ratio. I mean, I'm not saying don't have them, I'm just saying how many.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Hi, Janet Anderson, South Salem, also planning board chair. So the planning board did send a letter, which if you have any questions about, I'd be glad to answer or, come back. I did want to sort of react to some of this. I don't think the intent of the law is to eliminate short-term rentals. I think it's to regulate it, and to enable short-term rentals to be part of the community in the right way. I really think that it's important to have a code that considers short-term rentals for 3 reasons. One is just safety. It's if you have an inspection, which the code says you're going to have it looked at, you know that you have working fire alarms, you know that or smoke detectors, you know that the handrails are attached. There have been tragic fires, one recently in Dutchess County, where a mother and a small child both perished because there weren't working smoke detectors, even though the owner had certified that they were in the home, but without an inspection to see that happened. I think a second reason, there's a lot of work put in, and by a lot of people, including the board, to pass a comprehensive plan. And part of the comprehensive plan really did say that a short-term rental was recommended. The original package of local laws that were passed had a short-term rental code in it. It was taken out for more work, part of which was done by the housing committee and a lot of other people. I think really it is, again, maybe not this exact law, but a regulatory code is important to have. And it really respects that commitment of the short-term rental. The third thing is really without regulation, essentially, I think the town board is condoning the operation of unregulated, commercial activities within a residential zone. So I think it's important to regulate it just to have, because these are residential communities. Okay, so that's in addition to the letter that really came from the planning board earlier.
Question, can I ask to Jen, or you want to hold on to?
Let's
Okay. let's
let
Yeah.
everyone speak.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else? Nope. How about over Zoom?
Lisa Weiss, I'm asking you to unmute.
Good evening.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. Lisa Owis, South Salem. I'm speaking in opposition to the proposed restrictions. I've been a member of the community for over 14 years as a local volunteer, proud parent of 2 John Jay graduates. When I was financially able to purchase a home, I chose Lewisboro because I love this town, especially its history rooted in hospitality. From taverns to the Meade family, historic homesteads like Lakeview, the legend of the Leatherman, we have always found room for the traveler. There were no restrictions on short-term rentals when I purchased. So I asked the board tonight, what is the real reason for these restrictions? Is it just to regulate for the sake of regulating? We have HOAs. Is the board ignoring thousands of successful quiet rentals to appease a handful of neighbors with a few bad stories? The law presented, the regulations presented, it seems to be under the guise of protecting lakes, septic systems, monitoring parking and noise. Those ordinances already exist in our town code. The true consistent threats to our environment come from unmonitored long-term usage, not the highly vetted guests visiting our town to attend events at La Chateau or to visit family. This is not a spring break town. These travelers bring diversity and revenue to our community. As mentioned, Airbnb and VRBO automatically collect tax. 3% goes to Westchester, 8.3% to the state. Our town, businesses, restaurants, shops, they all prosper from this revenue. These guidelines are so strict, they make it impossible for some to get a permit. I'm opposition to the residency restrictions. I must remind the board of its fundamental fiduciary responsibility to all taxpayers, which is to protect property interests and ensure that regulations are based on empirical data, not anecdotal complaints. This residency requirement is discriminatory and creates an arbitrary division of property rights, penalizing homeowners based on their residency status rather than their actual conduct. To pass a mandate that strips a homeowner of their property's highest and best use without proof of a public health crisis is, by legal definition, arbitrary. We must look at the septic math. As a homeowner who prioritizes non-toxic products and sustainability, I can tell you that the intermittent use of a property by a few guests is far less taxing on our local watersheds and infrastructure than the high volume daily use of a full-time residence. If the concern is truly about lake health or noise, then we should enforce our existing codes. Regulate behavior rather than passing a law that regulates the identity of the owner. Does a septic system know if the homeowner is a primary resident or an investor? Does a parking spot care where the owner spends their weekdays? No. These issues are about behavior, not residency. Discriminating against owners who built a portfolio here, chose Lewisboro, doesn't solve a single infrastructure problem. It only creates a financial one. Restriction devalues our investments and prevents families from adopting their assets to meet changing financial needs.
Lisa, I am awfully sorry, but your time is up.
Can I just say one more thing? Consider grandfather clause.
Yeah, 3 minutes. No.
3 minutes, and I'm sorry, we've been fair to everyone with 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. She wrote a letter too.
Yeah, we have less. Yeah.
Correct. We have your letter, Lisa, as well. Gustav Levy, I'm asking you to unmute.
Yeah, I'm in opposition to this. Please get your hand out of our pockets. There is no evidence at all in the town files of anybody complaining about this. Overregulation is oppressive, and I think that there should be a motion tonight to take this away for good and not regulate it at all. To the point of fire regulation, insurance policies, we all carry excess insurance, and if you don't, you should. Umbrella policies above and beyond homeowners insurance, as well as being covered by Airbnb. The taxes we pay are exorbitant, so I would strongly encourage this board to not go forward with anything that puts restrictions on short-term rentals. And also, I would hope that everyone has carbon monoxide, smoke detectors, and proper fire safety measures in all your homes, and not just short-term rentals.
Okay, thank you. Gustav. And that's it.
That's it? Okay. All right, so I think what we're gonna, like I said at the onset of this, is we're gonna keep the public hearing open. And I'm looking at council, it's okay for us to do that, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
You should have
And then-
a motion to keep it open.
Yeah.
Till at least a future date, and then you can.
Right.
At that time.
So,
Not necessarily now, but I had some, based upon, we got the submission from the planning board on March 18th, so since Janet's here, I had some questions on their letter and some of the things they were proposing. I don't know if now's a good time.
yeah, I don't think now would be the time to ask her questions. So the hearing's open, so we can still, you can have dialogue afterwards.
Well, we also have people here, so it's an opportunity for people to hear about it. So people, can we put this on the town's website?
Sure.
Should know.
We can add this to the meeting minutes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so people should be aware that the planning
Okay.
board submitted a letter to us on March 18th. And within that, there's a few pages, but thing that I just want to bring quickly to everybody's attention is that on the procedural oversight, the planning board's recommending that the short-term rentals be permitted via special use permit issued by an approving board, either the planning board or the ZBA, rather than by the building inspector. And the draft legislation we have is talking about an application being submitted to the building department along with a bunch of requirements, the form and content of the permit application. So there's a lot of information in there. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I have a lot of reservations about the initial draft that we have, as I've talked about in past meetings, as well as what the planning board is doing here, especially and in part based upon infringement of property rights in our community, particularly in two things I've said before, particularly in a community where we have existing code provisions. And I go back to the same thing, and I'll leave it here. I still haven't been told or convinced about the problem that we are looking to solve here in Lewisboro, not another community, here in Lewisboro, that we need to have this legislation to address.
Yes, so let's go ahead and I'll motion that we keep the public hearing open. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? I guess let's keep discussing.
Open it till when we need to think about.
Move the date, but at least there's like at least.
Yeah,
So that's April 13th.
yeah, let's do it the second meeting in April,
The 27th.
27th, I think. Yeah,
So how does
Yeah.
it,
okay, that's fine, yeah.
so we'll have it to continue if people want.
If, yeah, unless things change beforehand, we can even, yeah, we can always modify it, yeah. But let me just make it clear to, and the board is all aware of this, that this code has been available to everyone for everyone's review for some time now, and the planning board comments came about after the code was made available for the public hearing. So, yeah, please go back, take the input that we have from the public, and let's go back and then decide whether we want to keep it as is, modify it, or not do anything.
And keeping it open means that you can still email us or give us a phone call, and we could have a cup of coffee and talk about it. And we are open to the discussion and your input. And if Janet Anderson hasn't already, or the planning board as an organization hasn't already sent it to Janet, then I can forward it to you.
I have,
She
You
had,
have it already?
Yeah.
Okay.
and I think I have most of the letters.
right,
Yeah.
yep. Okay, so,
We
all
need
in
to
favor?
vote. Yeah.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for coming out and providing your feedback. It's, we're definitely listening to you, so we're gonna take that all in, including all the letters and emails that have come to the board. So thank you very much.
And we've gotten quite a few already, so thank you for your patience in our responding to you as well. We hope to respond to every letter individually.
Okay, next we have public comment. So for anyone here in the room who would like to comment about anything?
Anything.
Okay. Your name, Hamlet, you have 3 minutes.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Brendan Banky. I live at 19 Ashwood Road in South Salem. I'm here on behalf of 14 neighboring property owners to address local law number 8 of 2025. We're submitting 2 documents tonight, more on Wednesday at the ZBA meeting. But first is a formal petition signed by all 14 of us challenging the adoption of the law. The other would be the FOIL request for records, for all records related to its adoption. We also have a letter going to the city DEP requesting their review of the watershed impacts. And so we ask that we can enter these into the record tonight if that's possible. Before I begin, I want to be clear. I run an ADSB flight tracking station in my attic, and I'm an aviation enthusiast. We collectively are not anti-helicopter. Our concern is with the process that cut corners. I have 4 points and 1 ask, and I'll try to be brief here. So first is your own finding. So section 220-21.1 of this town zoning code makes a specific legislative finding, and that is the town finds that due to the proximity of the Westchester County Airport and the Danbury Airport, the landing of aircraft in the town is not required to serve the transportation needs of town residents. That finding is still in your code today. Local law number 8 reversed it. The airports have not moved. No study was done to explain why your own finding is no longer valid. And under New York law, a legislative body that reverses its own factual finding without any evidentiary basis acts arbitrarily. Number 2, there was no environmental review. This law was classified as a type 2 under SECRA, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And it puts it in the same category as repaving a road. So that means there was no zero environmental review. So no assessment form was ever completed to our knowledge. And the type 2 list in the regulations is quite specific, authorizing helicopter operations carrying 143 gallons of jet fuel in the city watershed is not on that list. And because the permit process also doesn't require SECRA, the environmental impacts are never reviewed at any stage. So both your planning board and the ZBA told this board to hire an aviation consultant. You adopted the law the same evening in a meeting just like tonight without ever doing that. And so next, around the city drinking water. The properties that are affected by that law, specifically the Handler property, has wetlands which drain into Bowie Creek, which feeds Cross River Reservoir. And that's 10.3 billion gallons of drinking water for the city. So we just ask that you impose an immediate moratorium, and you have the authority to do so. Thank you.
Anyone else? Public comment?
Hi, Karen Conti, South Salem. I wanted to, I guess, commend the highway department this year for their amazing job cleaning the snow. We've been here 34 years, and way back when, they used to do a great job. And then in between, not so much. And our whole roads were completely clear the day after. And they even came back and they did our driveways so that where they plow us in, they got rid of the part where they plow us in and we have to dig it all out. And, you know, I think that John Winter and his guys are just doing a fantastic job. And I think practically everyone could say that. I mean, this is one of the best years ever in our town. And they did it without having to hire out, which has led to, in the past, you know, down poles, down mailboxes, driving off the side of our front of our property, things like that. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
My name is Dawn Christopher. I live in South Salem. I'm here with my husband. I'm one of the 14 people that signed the page from that you guys have gotten. I was also informed when I came to the meeting that we have several representatives from Ridgefield. They have another sheet that they just told me about that has 50 signatures. So they, I guess, will be getting more and presenting it to you, to the ZBA on Wednesday, unless you want it tonight. So I want to speak first about what the town says in their comprehensive master plan, because I assume that plan is developed over years. And I believe that the board looks at that for guidance when they make decisions about things. In it says, quote, protecting lands with natural qualities from alteration and maintaining Lewisboro's, quote, low profile residential character. I feel that the whole thing with the helicopters doesn't do either of those things. So, the local, so you did I'm assuming you were all present there for the Saturday landing in the morning? The helicopter landing was,
No.
or is that only the ZBA?
ZBA, I think our building inspector is there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was Saturday, and it made it really clear and it confirmed all our fears. Helicopter operations extended way beyond their property boundaries. And it is really evident that all these aspects of this thing were not taken into consideration. We took a lot of videos, which we'll show, but I'm on the far side. I'm on Bowway. There were people on Ashwood. Even where I was on Bowway, it came in very loudly. Before you could even see the helicopter, you heard the vibrating sound. And then the helicopter came down and got louder and louder. Now, I'm assuming most of us live here because we love the beauty of this area. We love waking up, hearing the birds, just the beautiful nature of it. And when you're sitting there and you're trying to look out, enjoy your yard, and you suddenly hear this massive helicopter sound descending and you see it in front of you, it's shocking, okay? And it's shocking to me that the board would ever let something like that happen. They aren't doing it in North Salem. They ban it in Bedford. I don't know why that would be allowed here in Lewisboro. So the town board has the ability under New York state law to amend, modify, or repeal zoning provisions when they realize that the real world impacts have become clear and it might not be good. So we ask the board revisit this provision and consider a temporary pause while proper review takes place.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Janet Anderson, South Salem. I'm one of the ones who is now on the other side of the moat. And I wanted to say thank you so much to John Winter, and really the Lewisboro team, including Supervisor Tony, Chief of Staff Carrie, the town engineer Joe Tremelli, and then the people outside of the town itself, the engineers from Tectonic and the DOT, who all seem to have taken the collapse very seriously, really came up with plans and are, when we had very high water, opening the pass, first of all, opening it all when it collapsed, but then opening it wider after we got over an inch of rain last night. So just wanted to say kudos, and we really appreciate it. And, it's kind of interesting taking the long way to get places now. Okay, thank you. One way looking at it. No. I don't know that they.
You're next. You'll be next.
I'm Christine Farrow. I live in South Salem, actually on Twin Lakes Road on the culvert that connects Riverwalk to Oskaleta. And as Jan just pointed out, everybody, I've been emailing since the culvert broke every day that the water was rising and how much was rising. I sent pictures, and the response was phenomenal. So I just wanted to say thank you. John Winter, Tony, I can't name everyone who replied to my emails, but they were fabulous and very encouraging, very professional. And I was thrilled today to say the water has receded or is beginning to recede. So we're very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Good evening. I'm Craig Johnson. Excuse me. I live in Ridgefield, Connecticut. We are right across the border of your community. And I'm here this evening to talk about the heliport that's being built in our neighborhood. We found out about this on Thursday. There was 10 days notice before, I assume, some decision is going to be made. In that 10-day period, I notified the town of Ridgefield. They received no notification of this. I notified probably 30 or 40 neighbors going house to house, explaining what is about to happen in our neighborhood. I have a video, which I'm not sure I should play now, but if you heard the sound, you'd be shocked how loud the helicopter is. And it's not just the helicopter, it's the fact that the sound reverberates throughout the geology in that area. Between, needless to say, taking a measurement at the landing pad is insufficient because the sound reverberates up the geology. There is a rock face there. There is a solid lake front. You just, I guess I'll save it for this group on Wednesday. You cannot believe how noisy it is and how disruptive it is. Like you in Lewisboro, we in Richfield, and especially on that street, those streets that abut your city, selected that area for peace and quiet. And it will be gone. And I've heard, well, it's okay because it's only once in a while. And Mr. Handler has even already traversed our area once in a while. But for those who might not know, Mr. Handler now wants to set up 12 occasions a month. 144 trips in and out of our community. And maybe some in your town of Lewisboro won't hear it, but it's shocking how loud it is. And I think I need to make the point also. It's one thing if you buy a house next to an airport, knowing full well that the airport exists. We bought a house in the countryside. And it's not fair that one individual is more important than 50 or 60 individuals.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else here would like to speak?
I'm Barry Lombardi, South Salem, New York. Thank you for that information, everyone, about the helicopter, because I always thought it was a medical helicopter. So if it's not, that's unfortunate, and I hope we do something about it. Thank you for everyone for such a quick temporary structure for the bridge. So thank you for that. But I wish we were a little bit more less reactive and more proactive. It was advised years ago that the bridges in town to be assessed, and the board should be doing this. I don't know if they are or if they're even aware. The option of a temporary bridge should have been explored for current culvert and other bridges to avoid the same issues. My question is, how long is the temporary bridge for? And why a single lane? And is it drivable or is it just for walking? If the next bridge failure injures or kills someone, the liability to the town and taxpayer will be catastrophic. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? How about over Zoom? Oh, wait, Tom, go ahead.
I'm Tom Christopher, Don Sutton. Full well know it's an unwise man who follows his wife to a podium, but I'll take that shot. 3 brief points. Mr. Johnson was absolutely correct. And the Saturday test was a good idea because we realized how loud a helicopter is. And it's like watching a bad Vietnam War movie. It just shakes the earth, rattles our windows. We live in a, he's also correct about the geological area. We live in like the rim of Hollywood. This picks up noise and travels. We hear their parties, we hear their cars, we hear everything, no complaints. But a helicopter is beyond that. It just shakes everything. I read in the town plan, we're allowed the legal term of quiet enjoyment. I think that's paramount. That's in our, even our constitution, as far as I know. And I like the fact that you guys closed down leaf blowers, gas leaf blowers. They're annoying. They make about 1/10 of the racket a chopper makes. They make 80 decibels. A chopper comes in at 135, which is, if you look at a chart, it is deafening. And I think we all know this is a private indulgence. Emergency vehicles are not going to use it. They're not going to hustle down a dark, narrow, rutted and winding dirt road where there's a perfectly good helicopter landing spot at the firehouse with the medical personnel and all the gear ready. There's also areas right behind the police station, soccer field. Everything is there. We don't need this. Third point, and this is important, this sets a precedent for the dozen or so other 50-acre lots. So we could all be facing expressway filled with airborne vehicles without mufflers. This could just explode. There's a reason why every town stops it now. Kisco, Bedford, North Salem. By the way, when the chopper pilot was leaving, he thought it'd be fun to razz a North Salem golf course, which frankly is something I think would be fun, but not if you're on the golf course and you value privacy and noise. They just think it's fun. They come over our house 20 feet over the trees. It's annoying. So that's about it. You know, they went over saying we have no FAA approval. It's like if this area is governed by the Freshwater Wetlands Program established by the Department of Environmental Conservation. Helicopter fuel spills happen. It just happens. This feeds into Lake Truesdale. You can have $1 billion problem. And we're responsible. Our taxes fighting the EPA or cleaning it up. It's a major exposure. It's a legal exposure I don't think we need. So I encourage all of us, take a step back, let's take another look. And just revisit it, think about it really carefully. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone else would like to come up and speak? No? Over Zoom?
Yes.
Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll have more questions after we go through the new business items. However, I do want to say before we go into them, there are 5 people sitting on that board, and there's one person who usually on a weekly basis asks appropriate and involved questions regarding issues, especially when they come to money. I'm asking everybody to please, when we go through these items, know that there are people in this community that are being taxed through the roof. I'm a homeowner. When I look at my tax bill, not only do I have my town tax, which I know is lower, but I also have my school tax. Okay, school tax goes up every year. There's a $25 million bond on that. We have several bonds out already in our town. We have a property that we bought on 35 that we have to do renovations with because it was not moving ready to what we needed for. We have the possibility of another $800,000 that we may have to spend if we get a grant for crosswalks. That should be the state responsibility. We don't have figures yet for the police department. And I also see that there's something about releasing, I guess, the bonds or with the grants for the pickleball courts, which we did not get that grant either. Pickleball courts that are going to cost another $750,000 to $1 million that we do not have. So when we're going through these items, I want to beg you people, we don't have to do everything. We cannot afford to do everything. We need to do what we need because that in and of itself is going to raise our taxes enough for the next couple of years. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Barbara. And that's it, Supervisor.
That's it? Okay, thank you. Okay. So next we have communications. I just have one item for communications, and this was a letter received from the first selectman from the town of Richfield. And it's regarding the helipad and what's being discussed at the ZBA meeting on Wednesday. I'm just going to summarize it rather than read the entire letter. It's a couple of pages. Basically, he's expressing strong opposition to the proposed helipad to be located in the town of Lewisboro. He mentions the cross-border impacts of this proposal, which cannot be ignored. The intrusive noise, the adverse impact on open space and surrounding environment, and respectfully urge the appropriate authorities to carefully consider the cumulative impacts of this proposal. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass this on to our town clerk, and it'll be part of the meeting minutes. So, thank you,
Do we want to forward this to?
Rudy Martoni. Yeah. It'll be distributed. Yeah. Actually, I think it has been distributed to the ZBA already,
Yes.
I think. Yeah. Okay, next is the consent agenda. So I'd like to go ahead and motion that we approve the minutes of February 23rd and March 9th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we jump to new business, which is the first item is discussion on the Oskalita Road culvert. Our highway superintendent is here. We also have a couple of folks on the over Zoom. Our town engineer, Joe Tremelli, so we should let him in. Is he logged in? Can you see?
Joe, if you could raise your hand on Zoom. that-
Joe Tremelli and also Mark Lukasik from Tectonic. While we're doing that, John, you can step right up.
And John, you missed all the kudos that you received before you got here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Between the snow removal and the work that you and your team have done about the culvert collapse. Everybody's great.
I usually can only come here when I'm asking for funding.
Well, don't do that tonight.
Mark
Is
is
on?
unmuted. I don't see Joe yet.
Okay.
So,
All right, so we'll keep an eye out for Joe. Joe, if you're there, raise your hands. So I guess I sent out a summary for anyone that has signed up for a town email. If you haven't, you should. You get a lot of interesting emails in your inbox.
Not too many.
But not too many. And I did send out a summary, basically what we've done since the culvert collapsed a week ago yesterday.
And I read the New York State alert system too, because
Yeah.
you put something out on that. That was.
Actually, I didn't put that. I can't take credit for that one.
Emergency,
That was you guys?
that was the Emergency Management Executive Committee. And as in we are working on a plan, a comprehensive plan to look at our infrastructure and make sure we have a list of the executive committee of the Emergency Management Committee and myself. We met with the people who are arranging the New York alert plan for the state of New York for our community. So we're putting a list together of things like earthquake and all sorts of natural disasters, as well as how it would impact not only the infrastructure, but the people as well. So they will have a list of the fact that we are concerned for people with special needs, those of us who are more experienced in life, or people with medical emergencies. So that's my way of saying senior citizens. So in case people didn't pick up on that. So back to the culvert.
Yeah, so sign up for email and sign up for New York alerts and pick the Lewisboro option. So John, do you want to give a quick synopsis, and we have Mark and he can fill us in on some of the discussions we've had with DOT and the Superbox program that we're, yeah.
Sunday, 3:15, we had an important culvert fail in Lewisboro, connects Twin Lakes community to Walkabout Lake on Oskalita Road between Twin Lakes Road and South Shore Drive. I'm told the culvert is on plan to be replaced as part of a Bridge New York grant. The process is still in the engineering design phase at the moment and would be on path to going to bid in 27. Tuesday, all the blacktop and dirt was removed from on top of the collapsed culvert to reestablish the flow between the two waterways, which was important with all the rain Monday. Riprap was then installed along each side to retain soil for sediment retention. Wednesday, I submitted to DEC for requesting emergency authorization, which was approved. I was very impressed by DEC, same day. And I've come up with a plan to get the road back open. One lane alternating bidirectional traffic as it previously was. We'll continue to use the existing signage.
I've ordered roughly $15,000 in 48-inch pipe. And that's the plan to install that. We opened it up today to get the flow going quite a bit more and let the two lakes equalize. So we're not fighting turbulent water when we go to install them. The old metal pipe is essentially like a stepped on soda can. It's still in the hole and that's going to work to our advantage. We'll set the pipe on top of it. The crushed metal will displace the weight of the pipes on the muddy bottom of the waterway. Once the pipes are installed, we'll use riprap and gravel and then road base item 4. I ordered additional deliveries of all those materials last week in preparation for this. The majority of it will be done in-house. I'm going to hire out to some local contractors for larger equipment, larger excavator, larger trucks. I understand I might not get reimbursed for any of this. And I'll keep track of the expenses. Hopefully it can get covered by the grant. We as a town need to get this road back open for the residents affected. Whatever the cost may be, it was not a project I planned on, putting time and effort into, as I was hoping this was getting done under that Bridge New York grant. I was hoping that would cover the job. Unfortunately, the old culvert did not make it until that project could begin. If reimbursement for the emergency repair does not happen, I just ask the town board, please keep that in mind, as this is an emergency repair. And I'm asking, when I'm presenting my 2027 budget, just keep that in mind. This is gonna eat some funds up that, I was planning on using on other projects. And clearly this is priority to me, and I plan on getting the road open as quickly as I can. I'm here not to ask your permission, but to ask for your support, and just to be here for public transparency, as is my current plan. And I know a lot of residents been bothering Cheryl and Carrie, and everyone who will answer a phone, and Janet and Jen, and anyone on the other end of a phone's probably fielded some questions, angry people, trying to do everything we can.
If I may, please do document. I'm going to meet with the people in Valhalla as far as emergency management goes to see if we can get any federal funds. Maybe there's a FEMA emergency funds that we can tap into. So continue to document and I'll see what we can do as far as covering the costs go.
Thank you, Mary. That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow from 10 to 12.
So what I like, if Mark is on, maybe he can give us his perspective on
the big picture.
The big picture with the DOT, from the DOT discussions we've had. Mark, if you don't mind chiming in.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for a few minutes of your time. Hopefully you can hear everything I'm saying okay on your end.
Yes.
Thus far, the DOT has been very responsive. DOT has a rather complex process for the Bridge New York program and all state and federally funded projects. But thus far, the state has been very understanding, very willing to open dialogue and figure out how we can accelerate as much as feasible under their program the process of wrapping up the environmental review of the planned replacement design, and then finding a way to get materials to the location as quickly as possible while keeping everything essentially participating reimbursable under the grant program to maximize the dollar amount of the grant that the town has retained, and essentially build as much as you possibly can with that money, and to put forward a more robust structure that'll have a longer design life than the metal culvert that was there. Thus far, we've had 2 meetings with DOT. A third one will be coming up later this week, in which that meeting really should be really brass tacks as far as how we can execute a plan to wrap up that environmental review. I'll just put a little plug in for this project. There is Thursday night another meeting that was to be largely about the replacement structure that we're planning for this project. But we'll also cover what's transpired thus far and answer any questions that folks have there too. So if you're interested, please come along to that. And broadly, that's where we sit at the moment. The project is conceptually designed. Some alternatives have been reviewed, and the environmental review is in process.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. And for those that didn't hear, Mark is the consulting engineer on this project. He's with Tectonic.
And the meeting on Thursday that he mentioned is at the
It's at
town court?
79 Boughton, the town court.
And what time is that?
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
7
yes.
p.m.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so, yeah, I like to thank, Mark, he's been very responsive. When this happened on Sunday, we reached out to everyone we could think of, including our county reps, our state reps, to see what kind of assistance they can provide as well. We even had a recommendation on possibly using some temporary bridge spans that were used for the Tappan Zee Bridge. And that actually came from the North Salem supervisor. So thank you, Warren Lucas. Apparently the DOT does stock some of those, but they would have been pretty much it would be a big hassle to get them in place. They're big sections and they need to be cut down. So the temporary solution that John came up with these 3 pipes is the right solution to go with and the quickest and the least expensive. So thank you, John.
Highway superintendent in here, is the temporary solution something that people will be able to drive over?
Oh, yeah, that's the whole point.
Okay,
Yeah.
just so our neighbors at home.
1 lane,
understand it.
2 lanes.
I
Okay.
appreciate the board members who checked in on me and my mental well-being.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here for.
And
Um,
only the only one that's, I sent him an email, being on the other side of it, I think it's changing the traffic pattern, so I was sort of hoping it would be closed a little longer so that.
We kind of joked about that, if people, walking and rolling skating and, I said, this is quiet too long, people might change their mind about this.
Right. Yeah, and with this culvert, so this box culvert that DOT has pre-approved, and they have a pre-approved contractor, is actually larger than the one we initially designed, that Mark and his team designed into the as a replacement. So instead of a 16-foot wide opening under the road, it's going to be 20 feet wide. So a lot of room for kayakers and whoever else. But yeah, so that's the plan there. Joe Tremelli, I don't know if he's on or if he wants to say a few words. Joe has been very helpful as well. He jumped
He
in.
did not raise his hand.
No? Okay. Thank you, Joe.
So
Yeah.
just John, so the basic idea is the temporary work that's going to be done. That is going to be in place until the box culvert can be installed. In other words, that can hold us until
That's the whole
27.
plan.
Okay, so this is step 1, and step 2 will be hopefully the permanent solution when that construction starts on that.
Yeah.
Do we have a plan for signage for the weight limit on the overpass and how we might defer, like, once a large truck is down, it's hard to find a way out. I mean, I guess they could back up and back into Twin Lakes Road, but I don't know where that signage would go. Would that go at the intersection of what is Holly and no,
It's tricky, because that's our sale, there's gonna have to be some
Yeah.
communication with them.
And we passed a resolution and Carrie, she did the research on this.
About it the other day.
Yeah, we have a resolution that restricts commercial traffic on
think
Escalita.
Escalita meets.
We haven't put the signs up yet, but we did pass a resolution.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
a
for anyone.
few months ago.
Just for public
November?
knowledge, when,
Oh, commercial through traffic. Yeah, delivery, right, deliveries, that's right, you're right, but no through.
Service.
Yeah.
Contractors.
just for public knowledge, people always ask me, can I get a sign here? Can I get a sign there? If the sign is a ticketable offense, it needs to be in the town code. So you're happy to email me, but I'm gonna immediately defer the resident to the town board as a, checks and balances. You gotta go to a public hearing. You want a stop sign at an intersection. People can say they want it, they don't want it. That's, democracy at its finest. And
You know, people either want it or don't want it, and you as the elected officials make that decision, and my team puts the sign in. But I constantly get people asking, I want this sign, I want that sign now. You know, if you have a faded sign and I'm gonna replace it, or it's a sign that's not a
Right.
ticketable offense, you know, just letting someone know there's a steep hill or a hard turn or something,
Right.
we can do that. But as far as a ticketable offense needs to be in town code,
Mhm.
because that one upholding court, if
Right.
there's just a sign and there's no law or code to back it up. So I just want to just now here in public talk, same with the, people wanted yellow lines on roads. Again, you cross a double line, you can get a ticket. So you want double yellow lines on your road, it's gotta go in the town code. So I just figured I'd say that while I'm here in public, because it's a common request. And I'm just constantly deferring whoever is requesting it to the board.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Yep, we have
Good
to
job.
follow the procedure. Again, thank you so much for everything that you and your team have done. Kudos.
Thanks for the support.
Okay. All right, so next we have a discussion on the capital projects and funding plan. So I'd like to have Annie step up. So here's a list of, Annie and I, we've met with each of the department heads and we distributed to the board what their requests are. And this is part of the agenda packet. And we're not making any decisions here on spending money, but we are going to, we want to make sure everyone is aware of what's being requested. And if anyone has any questions about what's being requested, please go directly to the department head. Feel free to copy us in your requests or communicate to Annie and myself, and we can review this further. But there is a request of items, which here it is. Yeah, so I can put it up on a screen, I guess, if folks would like to see it here. I think folks at home probably have the agendas.
Yeah.
It's in the packet, yeah, so I'm not gonna put it, yeah. It's
Not bad.
you have it on your phones, okay, good, so I'm not gonna, because prepare for this, but. So Annie put this together, and it shows for 2026, the request from Highway, Parks and Rec, LPD, and Facilities Maintenance, and the Building Department. Now, some of these requests have been made year after year after year. And, we finally decided, it's getting to a point where, we need to spend some money. Just to give you an example
Can we put it up so people can follow it? It's just one page.
Sure.
You're reading numbers off of
Yeah.
feed when people can follow it.
Yeah, everyone, well, I'm not reading anything yet, but it's on the packets that folks at home should have, but I can, for the 5 people that are here, I can display it. I can display it. I just need the cable. I don't know. So put up on the screen here.
Well, while that's getting set up. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Mention that this is not the discussion tonight of a master plan, but I do want to say to the town board and supervisor that the master plan needs to become a more regular conversation, and I think that starts with you all as our fearless leaders. So this tonight's discussion is for the itemized equipment, vehicles, infrastructure requests that need to be addressed in 2026 per the meetings that Tony and I had with the department heads. So obviously I'll support you in anything I can do with your work on the master plan, but I do think it needs to, a long-term vision needs to be shared. And just so everybody's clear, Annie Burnham has mentioned master plan a couple of times. What she's talking about is a capital correct budget or plan. So because the spending to make things happen is our operating budget, which happens every fiscal year. And this is a little different as far as how we account for things. Correct. So that is, again, discussion for another time. But this discussion tonight, we're addressing the needs of like the aging fleets for highway and PD. There's infrastructure needs for Parks and Rec as far as like court resurfacing and resodding and a lot of things that have been talked about over years and just pushed down
pushed away or pushed down a further timeline. So now I think is the time to get this list together, and the department heads were the ones who said that what they saw as an immediate need and what could be pushed out to later. So this has an element of a master plan to it where you can see what is in the pipeline for them as far as vehicles and equipment, capital needs that they have. So the list of the items is there. At the bottom, you'll see the total for 2026 is 1.1 million. So after conferring with our financial advisors, we are going to, I'm suggesting that we pursue a short-term borrowing for this, which is called a BAN, a bond anticipation note. With the timeline that we're looking at now, this is the list that would be provided to bond council, where we would then get a bond resolution for this that would hopefully be passed at the earliest meeting in April, depending on the turnaround from bond council. Which would enter us into the borrowing sometime between May and June. As soon as we enter the borrowing, the orders can be placed. Some of these things take a long time to get ordered and then get outfitted once they're ordered. This is just the way these things work with municipal borrowing.
Have these items that you've gotten from the canvas from the department heads been priced out?
Yes, they provided the prices based on their research.
Well, based upon their research,
Yeah.
or did it have backup as far as stuff?
That's the 2026 column.
Yeah.
That's their.
That came from the
pricing that
department.
They gave to us.
No, that's the pricing they gave to us, but.
That is the
it
pricing, yeah.
Yeah, is it supported based upon, okay, that they competitively, like we have a dump truck, $200,000.
Yes, that came from
As
Johnson.
their, right, as their backup that, okay, we went to make sure that $200,000 is a competitive price.
John can back that up for you, yes.
And they can only buy it from certain places as
Yeah.
far as regulations. Yeah.
If it's on contract, there's not a contract, the only way you're gonna know the prices when you go out to bid, but you can make an estimate.
Right, so these are reasonable estimates
Right.
for what they would be going for, yes. And outfitting is included in a lot of these estimates, most of the estimates, yeah.
And the idea with the ban is it's a short-term borrowing, so we could potentially, we'll see how things go.
Correct,
Over the
so
course of the year, and.
this
we can
gives
pay it
us
back.
just the benefit of time, right? That we can go into this borrowing now, make the purchases, place the orders, and then when they become due in a year from the issue, we can decide to use fund balance to pay part of it down rather than roll it into a new bond. So it's really just giving us flexibility. And at that time, when we if we decide to roll into a new bond, we'll have additional capital items that'll be outside of this list. So that's how that will work.
And we're also looking at timing this with the drop off in other bonds.
Correct.
Yeah, I
So
think
the
that's-
impact for debt service, if these were to roll into a bond, is we wouldn't see the impact until the year 2028. In 2027, we would owe 30,000 of interest on this borrowing, and then it would get rolled into a bond that would present about $120,000 of debt service per year, but we won't see that until 2028 and 2029 would have more of an impact, and then debt falls off in 2030. And we would come back to the levels of 2026.
So as you explained to me, we're looking to borrow $1.1 million now.
Mhm.
Our first payment on that 1.1 million does not come due for a year from now. And based upon our financial situation at that time, it'll make a determination whether we can pay some of it back immediately based upon existing fund balance or out of operations, or we can roll it in with other debt service, figure out at that point what we're gonna do next.
Exactly.
And I also think like one of the things to think about is debt service against assets that depreciate over longer periods of time. So we might want to think about, so thank you for breaking out things that have a 3-year depreciation versus a 10-year usable life or whatever
That's
terms
right.
you want to use. I think maybe one of our goals should be to look at trying to use 371 of cash, and then for the things that are on the 10-year useful life, use debt to balance
I
that.
agree.
And I think it's important to keep in mind that right now the interest rates are reasonably good, and so debt service is a good way for us to maintain cash. And if the interest rates of borrowing are less than the interest rates of what we can make on cash,
Correct.
extending the debt over time is a good way for like a treasury strategy.
Exactly. Debt service is part of municipal
Yeah,
finance.
correct.
This is how towns function, then this is all within a reasonable amount of.
And as far as the interest rate, we're looking at 2.575.
Well, the first
right now.
estimate was, it'll be somewhere between 2.5 and up to 3%, but
Right.
that's still lower than the treasury rate of 3.5% right now.
Right.
So it's a favorable position. And again, as I've mentioned before, our high yield account earns about 4%.
Yeah, picking up what Julie said, you've been trying to, since you've been on board, maximize the interest that we can get as far as money in the bank for that purpose.
That's right.
And it still keeps us in that higher percentage of having the fund balance. So we maintain our good credit rating.
Exactly.
So we would be able to borrow at a more favorable rate with our high rating.
That's right. So, and entering into this short-term ban, like the way you can think about it is for your own credit, for your own personal finances, when you have a hard inquiry into your credit versus a soft inquiry, the hard inquiry will rerun your score and possibly affect your score. This entering into the short-term ban does not require a hard inquiry into the town's credit rating again. That won't happen until we roll into the longer-term bond.
So using that shorter usefulness of life actually is a smarter choice to make as a fiduciary responsibility to the.
The useful lives are given to us by bond counsel,
Yeah.
depending on the usage of the assets that you're trying to procure. So that comes from them. But 3-year useful life, yeah, in my opinion, my goal is to be able to pay those off rather than incur debt service on those when the time comes. And then keep the 10-year equipment as part of the borrowing.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that when you look at the comprehensive plan and sort of at some point, I'm hoping we can have work sessions where we're gonna fold together like a master plan around debt and debt strategy and the comprehensive plan, but like item 12.1, item 14.4, all reference things like maintaining our recreation facilities and supporting infrastructure for the town, creating proper town offices. There's references to sustainability, which there's electric vehicles in here, like everything that's in this list aligns with what's in our comprehensive plan for the town. And so it's important for us to think about how do we invest in capital assets in order to meet what the comprehensive plan is outlining. So
yeah, and one challenge the department has shared with me is the aging fleets, that these cars that they keep on hand for as long as they can to be financially responsible ends up costing a lot in repairs. You can see on the agenda tonight, we're making an emergency purchase for a PD vehicle. That was on this list initially, but because the old one died, we have to do it now and we have to do it out of fund balance to expedite it. So that's just an example of this. Going forward every year in January, February, I will have the same conversation with the department heads to see how we need to approach the needs for vehicles and equipment for the upcoming year and forward.
Under the picking up on you to see how we're doing. So we're coming up on first quarter. I know there's
Right.
a lag. Do we have any
There is.
indication as to how we're doing so far based upon, our budget that we adopted?
This is the challenging 2026 budget that we have, yes.
Right.
I'll have a report sent out to you guys next week on the first quarter, and I'm gonna share that with the department heads as well. Nothing major concerns, but the storms were a lot for our personnel charges and our overtime, which is absolutely money well spent because they worked very hard, and the storms happened on Sunday, which is double time versus overtime. So, but
We'll have to talk to Mother Nature about that.
and that, yeah, so as of right now, we're not over budget on those lines yet, but we still
Who
have,
knows?
summer storms in November and December. So that's just something to keep in mind.
So far, more snow than expected in the corresponding cost, but otherwise, so far, so good.
So far, so good.
Okay.
You'll see that next.
Let's not tempt the fates by talking about any more weather.
No.
I'll just note, I'm wondering for the facilities for the highway garage, the oil furnace, did we have a chance to look at perhaps heat pumps rather than replacing the old oil burner so that we could get rid of the oil
Old
tank?
question.
Yeah, that'll be a Joel question, but I think it's something we should look into.
Compare.
Yeah, especially with the price of oil right now.
It's the other concern on the Shoals is electricity is
Yeah.
high,
Yeah.
so.
We're actually gonna, a separate topic, but we're gonna look at, there's New York Power Authority. We're looking at potentially, they have a plan for municipalities with rates that are favorable compared to what we're paying now. So we're gonna be looking at that, yeah. But, yeah, so here you have it. if anyone has any questions, not tonight, but until we get to, we would like to have a borrowing resolution for this stuff, probably by the second meeting in April.
Latest.
So any questions you may have beforehand, feel free to
Great.
reach out.
Questions on the items themselves are best sent to the department heads. They are the ones who put this together, who gave us the information. So they'll have more details for you if you need them.
Yeah, we have the high ticket item that was here. And then we convinced John that he didn't need it for this year.
No, he offered that.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right, he did. Yeah, is that street sweeper. So that with that one, there is a possibility that there's a grant through, it's the water quality improvement, WQIP, through the county. East Hudson funds, so I'm gonna be pursuing that.
So it
Yeah.
wasn't that we're kicking this down the road. It's that if there's a grant opportunity, that might take it a little longer.
Right.
So it's more realistic for a 2027
Right,
request than 2026.
right.
And all of those,
In there is the new dump truck for this year.
and all of those grants that we apply for and hopefully get will be lessening the tax burden for
That's
all of
right.
us.
Well, whatever we can get a grant for,
Right.
we'll pursue that obviously.
Okay, so that's the capital projects and funding plan.
Thank you, Annie.
But Andy's not gonna go away yet. So the next topic is the new police department building and funding plan. So we'll talk, I just want to give everybody a status of where we are. KSCJ, our town engineers, they're working on the septic design. It's going to be submitted to Department of Health this week. It then takes the Department of Health about 12 weeks to review it, and then there's going to be some back and forth. It could be a total of 4 months to get the design approved. And at that point, we can go out to bid on a septic system, and it'll be part of, we then need to figure out how, if it's going to be a single bid package for everything, with a GC responding to the bid, general contractor, or if we're going to do individual bids. So I gotta still have some more discussions with KSCJ and some other folks about the process. We're also looking at, and there's going to be some additional work. I have a proposal here. I'm going to get an updated one from KSCJ. For right now, they did the base mapping, they did the subsurface sewage disposal system, that's the septic system design. But we also have to do a wetland delineation site plan and a SWIP plan, which is a stormwater pollution prevention plan. And then there's a component here of the proposal, which is for the bid documents. So I'm gonna have a discussion with KSCJ about this. And then we're gonna have to make a decision on some of these additional soft costs that we have to incur in preparation for building the police department. We fortunately have a little more time from the school district, so they were giving us till end of August of next year rather than end of August of this year. And hopefully, who knows, maybe that'll get extended even further if we need more time. And we are still looking at modular prefab versus stick built, which is built on site.
We getting clarity as far as the modular component and its impact upon costs and prevailing issues?
Yeah, we've had some discussions on that. There's still some more discussions to be had on that, just to see, okay, can we, because as of February 1st, anything that's built for a public works project, even if it's built in a factory somewhere, has to be prevailing wages. So we're looking at, what options we have there.
Maybe grandfathering, anything, who knows, whatever.
Well, if it's an off-the-shelf modular unit, yeah, then it's not prevailing wage, but,
By the product.
if we buy the product, correct,
Second building.
right. Yes, yes.
It's materials.
But that's where we have to decide, and Annie and I spoke to our bond counsel about this, is it gonna be a, $3 to $4 million project or $5 to $6 million? And then there's we would have to have a bond resolution for that, and you have to include, the building is one cost item, but then it's the outfitting of the building, it's HVAC, it's the electric, it's the security system. So all that needs to be
The
factored
technology.
in. Right.
Well, that's why I said technology.
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes in and whether that's part of, so the building itself would have to be one bond because it has a PPU or probable
Period of
probable use of 25 years,
20 to 25.
20 to 25.
Come from bond council.
And for anything that's not part of the building or that's, you know, like a HVAC system, that's not a 25-year, that'd be less.
I mean, the stuff inside.
The stuff inside.
walls, like
Inside
furniture and systems.
Furniture, correct.
And water and systems.
Yeah.
So,
But that's, and just so everyone has any, you know, she crunched some numbers and it's roughly $60,000 in debt service per million.
Correct, for a building.
For a building. So if you have a $5 million building, it's a $300,000 debt service. Right, which would be the impact to the taxes.
based upon the interest rate you report.
I was using 3 to 3.5%. I went a little high.
So you're going a little bigger,
Yes,
just in case.
exactly.
You gotta be careful.
That's a general number.
Yeah.
To keep in mind when we talk about. when we have to borrow.
And it's an asset that we would hold.
Right.
Correct.
So that
Right.
way.
Right.
Yeah.
Forever.
That makes
Forever.
sense.
Yeah. So that's where we are with PD. Hopefully we'll, you know, we'll be able to fast track some of this work with the health department on the septic system and then start the site plan work and, yeah, and then the design
So
work as well.
this is why it takes a little longer for towns to build things because we have to follow all the laws from prevailing wage to doing things in the right order and getting in the environmental checks
Yeah.
and dotting our i's and crossing our t's.
I'm gonna,
Only because it's, I know, I'm the police stuff, that's all straightforward things. I'm just, you're gonna link it in, because I see we have on, with the Crest and Sam grants referable to pickleball. We have on M and N, so just, you'll drop in a footnote, you'll connect it in, because it's reference to a 700,000 component on this.
Oh,
sheet.
town park, yes.
You'll just loop that all together as far as doing the math, right, once we get there.
yeah,
That's right.
this
So
is
you can go
not,
later, just because we have that there, I just.
But this is-
Get the sheet was up.
but this is not 2026. This was for 2027 and later. So pickleball, yes, we have on the agenda 2 grants that New York State has provided us with the grant agreement, which means they want to move forward with it. So we have for the board to approve signing those 2 grants. And we still have an open grant with the DEC that Kerry had submitted. So hopefully we'll hear from that. And if we get that grant, that'll cover all the pickleball costs. And if not, then we have to go back to the drawing board and maybe reduce the number of courts and see what we can afford with the money that we do have.
So, okay, we can talk about it when we get to the items.
Yeah,
I just want to get the understanding about the total cost and what we need.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's
So I'm going to stop sharing this because we no longer need it. And we can move on to the next
Thank you, Amy.
item. So thank you, Annie. Yeah, I don't think we need you anymore. You're welcome to stay if you want. All right, so. Okay, so next we have a resolution approving the purchase of a Chevy Silverado 1500 for police department. At a cost not to exceed 60,000 in outfitting. So I'll go ahead and I'll motion that we approve that purchase. I'm sorry?
Coming off the ODS.
Yes. I believe, I think so.
New York State bid.
Kerry, when Andrew gave you the spec on the Silverado, that's off of, that's from the dealership that's under OGS, the contract or the state contract? Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to do the mini bid process, so the price that they put in here is assuming that they'll go out, they'll do the mini bid process, and then they'll know the exact purchase price, but yes, we're doing it off of state.
And for our friends at home, the mini bid, can you just?
Explain the whole, so
No,
this,
just-
when you're, it's part of the state procurement policy, you
Okay.
can't just go and there's not one fixed price, you have to go to 3 dealerships and get prices from them.
Thank
And
you.
then take the lowest to the.
Thanks.
AGS administers that. It's not.
It's not us.
Not the locality.
Yeah,
that does
no.
it, so.
Right.
But if it's an emergency, you don't need to do.
Yeah, and again, the reason is,
Declaring it an emergency because of the shortage.
Well,
Or not.
yeah, so we're
Store.
limping along. So we had a vehicle that is on its way out, so we need to get a replacement, but we have time to
Okay.
go through this process.
Then,
Yeah.
then it's ODS.
Yeah.
So by this process, we're shortening up the bidding process.
Well,
because
that's just the way it works now. It's that's the normal procurement policy through the state contract.
Through the state.
It's just that's just part of the way the process normally works. It's not, we're not cutting any corners or doing anything. to
No,
make it
no, okay,
faster.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the mini
it's-
bid.
No, the mini, that's just.
That's
process
what it
that
is.
you purchase a vehicle. That's just the
Oh,
technology. that you use for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So visible to us.
Okay.
Mini bid.
So it's OGS at a cost not to exceed 60.
So
At a cost not to exceed 60, and then do we need a separate resolution for the outfitting of, because that's a separate.
Is there, I don't see the detail on that, but on the microphone. You should order that.
Yeah, authorize it to not to exceed 20,000.
It's 20.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
So we have.
so motion,
So we have a 60,000 for the vehicle plus 20,000 for outfitting for a total of 80?
Yes.
That's correct.
correct,
You got a motion on that?
In the
and
second,
a second,
Okay.
roll call,
aye.
Aye.
aye,
Mary Shaw, aye.
Dan Welch, aye.
Tony, aye. Okay, next we have, I'd like to go ahead and motion that we approve the license agreement for Mead Memorial Chapel. Do I have a second?
second,
Discussion?
They need a licensing agreement because of the access on the town road?
It was,
Right
it
away.
was a condition of the final site plan approval that was issued by the planning board. On this particular project. Yeah, so they're using a portion of the property for, I think it's parking.
Yeah, it's a front entrance, and I think, yeah, parking on the town right of way.
It's revocable.
They're adding
Yeah.
a couple of
Yeah.
spots, right? I think there's something. Yeah, okay.
It is on town road.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so do I have a second?
yes, you did.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye. And can I just say for anyone who hasn't availed themselves of the non-denominational services that are happening at Mead Chapel once a month, they're really quite lovely. The next one is in April and they're only 30 minutes and they're just an opportunity to get inside a beautiful historical building in our town. And they have a wonderful minister who comes and oversees them, but they are completely non-denominational.
Yeah.
Like they're usually like the third Sunday. of the
Yeah,
month.
I've got.
Really lovely.
It's
Lovely.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, next we have, I guess, let's see, our motion that we authorize the commencement of summary proceedings with respect to premises at Kingswood Way. One Kingswood Way. Do I have a second?
Second,
Discussion?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Aye.
You would,
Aye.
Mary Shaw, aye.
Dan Welch, aye.
Okay, next,
The retainers all incorporated in all that, right?
They're
Okay.
negating, but just
Yes.
to mention, they need the other.
okay, next,
I move to accept the MS4 annual report and interim progress certification and authorize the supervisor to sign.
Second.
Discussion?
all in favor?
No, do you have anything to explain about the MS4?
It's part of the DEC, New York State DEC requirements, for, MS4, which is, I forget what the MS4 is. Municipal service. There you go.
And it is very interim. There's a lot in here that's just like, well, it's just halfway and it finishes, end of the term, so.
Yeah, and the report is,
Sounds exciting.
it's in the agenda packets for anyone who's interested.
It's like a progress report.
Okay,
Bye, Annie.
she sneak out.
Uh,
So shall we vote on that?
Yeah, so,
Do we need?
all in favor? No.
No.
Aye.
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 Okay, next,
Can we bundle I, J, and K here?
Sure.
okay, I'd like to bundle I, J, and K. And it's approving agreements with so I'm motion that we approve agreements with Ridgefield Aquatic Club, Storm Aquatics, and Stanford Sailfish Aquatic Club to use the Lewisboro Town Pool for swim practice.
Well done, second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Swimming is a good thing. You should learn to do it.
I'd like to go ahead and motion that we allow Parks and Rec to surplus their 2008 Jeep Grand Cherokee for Parks and Rec.
Second,
Discussion.
yeah, when we say surplus, it means it's the old vehicle and they're putting it out to auction.
Absolutely.
It's obsolete.
Correct. All in favor?
Aye.
I make the resolution to authorize the supervisor and town attorney to sign grant disbursement agreement for Crest number 28388 for $100,000 for pickleball courts and ADA compliant, Americans with Disability Act compliant trail at the town park.
Is that itemized between the two or?
Second,
The
full discussion.
Yeah.
Second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, is it within the 100? Is that two questions? Is it itemized between the pickleball part and the trail part and second half?
No.
Okay, so
It's 100 total.
and to
and
use
then we-
for as needed within the total.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
How come town attorney has to sign?
Always,
That's-
there's always an opinion of council in any grant disbursement application with the dormitory authority. Just that it was properly authorized and most of the time that we're in control of the property where the site control, where the project is going to be ongoing.
Okay, so you're making certain representations in connection with the acceptance.
Correct, and one of the representation I'm making is that the board's voted on it as well.
Okay.
So I haven't queued up, so I'll just, when you vote, I'll send them.
Yeah.
Thank you, council.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Do we need to roll call that? And then for, let's see, where are we? I move that we authorize the supervisor and town attorney to sign grant disbursement agreements, SAM 28596 for $125,000 for pickleball courts and ADA compliant trail for town park.
Second.
Discussion?
Now, can you close that loop, Tony? Because we, about these numbers and the total cost, because we have the 700,000 future potential expenditure.
Yeah, so we have 225 and then we have. a spreadsheet here. We have $50,000 donation.
Previously, right?
Yeah, we had some consulting, some soft costs, which we have not spent yet, but have already been. We're taking out of ARPA. There's some ARPA funds still available for this. And based on this estimate of $850,000 for the eight courts, we need about 580,000. So we're looking for that DEC grant that we applied for to cover that. If we don't get that grant, then we have to look at reducing the number of courts and taking that number lower and seeing if there's other funding available.
So with the grant, so with the grant disbursement agreements, that's essentially dedicated funds, which we have until such time as we get additional that we need, or is there a certain time frame in which we have?
These grants have a 3-year period that you have to use the grant money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we can do, and it is common practice within grants, that you can get a certain amount of grant and then get an additional grant after those grants to help pay for more costs.
No, I got that, and that's why we're applying
Yeah.
for the balance, I'm
Right.
saying, but let's say we don't get the additional, we don't get a grant for the shortfall, so then we'd have an option. We have an option, I guess, to come up with another funding source, or can we repurpose that grant money for something else?
We have done that in the past. We have repurposed, but we have to get permission from the dormitory authority to do that.
Okay, let's say for example, okay, we have a 250 project for this, but not
Right.
for this, since we haven't gotten the grant, we
Right.
we have that in a 3-year time period.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks for explaining.
Sure. Okay, so all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Oh my gosh, here's another one.
another one for the supervisor.
Authorizing the supervisor motion that that we authorize supervisor to sign interconnection agreement for Onitru solar panel project.
Second.
Discussion?
Can you explain just a little bit on that?
Yeah, so this is the solar panel project that the board approved, that's being funded through it's also a grant, a state grant, a SAM or Crest grant. I think it was a Crest
Crest
grant
grant.
from Senator Parkham.
What's the interconnection? part?
Interconnection is because we're gonna be connecting the solar power that we're generating back into the grid. To the NICEAG power grid.
So essentially, we're plugging it in as it were.
Correct. Yeah. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll go ahead and motion that we authorize our town clerk to attend the 44th New York State Town Clerk Association Annual Conference, which is held April 19th through 22nd at the Albany Crown Plaza.
Second.
Discussion?
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I hope you learn a lot and enjoy it.
Thank you.
All in favor?
And
Okay.
you had already budgeted.
Yes, it was in the budget.
So, yeah, for your professional development. It's wonderful.
Okay, so next is, I'd like to go ahead and motion that we,
May I?
you could.
I, motion that we authorize the use of Honor True Farm buildings and grounds and declaring Elmwood Road one-way during the annual library fair on September 19th, 2026. Second.
Discussion?
Gets a little iffy in the afternoon, yes.
All in
It's a
favor?
wonderful event.
Aye.
It builds community.
My part.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not all about.
Did we all say aye?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Next is public comment number 2 for new business only. Anyone here would like to speak? No? Sure, back there. How about over Zoom?
I'm sure.
We have one right now. And Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute. Sean, can you get her? Hold on.
Oh, maybe I can.
Wait a minute. Oh, I got it. And
Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. You knew I'd be back. So I have 2 questions or comments. The DEC grant for the pickleball courts in December, on the December 8th meeting, Tony, you said that we did not get the grant. So perhaps you can clarify that during polling of the board. I have the minutes in front of me. You announced that we did not get the DEC grant that we put in for. I do know we have the 2 other grants plus a $50,000 private donation. And I think I had mentioned this once. Peter Cipriano had once mentioned, maybe during a PrAC meeting, that perhaps the town should look at doing something with pickleball courts over in Vista where there is space to put them and the ground is level and there's much less infrastructure work that has to be done there. So that if we don't, I don't think we got you said we didn't get the grant, so when you clarify that, if we don't get any future grants, perhaps this could be done on a smaller scale in an area where we don't need to do so much infrastructure work. Because like I said in the beginning of the meeting, there's a lot of money going out, which is going to land in the pockets of, which is going to be coming out of the pockets of the residents. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would love to see, and I don't know if this is possible, Tony, perhaps you can think about this, perhaps some area on the website where we can have a dedicated spot, and I hope this doesn't fall on Janet if you do it, for updates on the police department project. I think it would be nice that the public could be informed because it is going to be a big expenditure, and it would be nice to have information out there to get the support of everybody. I'm pretty sure people will be supportive, but it would be nice to have a little area there where you can kind of have a timeline as to what's going on. That's it. Have a good night.
Just 2 BFN?
I'm sorry?
I thought you said 3 things.
No, I said 2.
Oh, okay.
I could add some. No, only kidding.
It's good to hear.
That's it for tonight.
All right. Thanks, Barbara.
Thanks.
That's it.
That's it? Okay. All right, so polling of the board. I'll start with Julia.
Thank you. So a couple of things. First off, I know that Cindy Rubino recently announced her retirement from the Lewisboro Library. I know that she was with her senior book group and shared that with them earlier in the week. And then we also received an email and just wanted to recognize her and thank her for her tremendously impactful career at the Lewisboro Library, many years, decades. 23. And, we just want to thank her and wish her all, like my mom shared with me that she recently turned 70, I guess. So congratulations on that. And what a wonderful opportunity to go and enjoy some time without work. And I'm sure we'll still see her because she's in town, and just wanted to again say congratulations and thank you to Cindy. I also want to thank John Winter, and many other people have done that. I also wanted to just make sure that everyone saw the New York Association of Towns legislative priorities. And I think interestingly, they have 5 advocacy priorities, 2 of which I think are interesting for us, which is increased CHIP funding and also dedicated water and sewer infrastructure funding. And so that's excellent for us. Those are both really things that we're focused on. So I'm really happy to see the New York Associations of Towns has really pulled and understood what the towns need. And they are having a lobby day on May 5th in Albany. Unfortunately, I'm not able to attend. I have a work commitment, but hopefully maybe someone could be part of that. I think it's a great opportunity for us to lobby on behalf of those 2 particular legislative priorities. And that is it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Julia. Mary?
There, if I remember correctly, there are actually 14 legislative priorities as far as their advocacy goes. And one of them was about town rule as well. So, a home rule, I should say, sorry. So that was great. And Cindy has served this town for 23 years and has made a difference for the library as well as everyone who goes to the library fair and other events, like senior gatherings. So I'm really grateful for that. I was one of the people who called up John to make sure he was okay after I heard all of the bits about the culvert collapsing, and I'm glad that they're doing well. He's very resourceful. As far as, if I may answer Barbara's question about the pickleball court in Vista, I do believe at Vista Town Park, there's a large chunk of wetlands that's right off of the baseball court or baseball field, sorry. And I don't know how much buildable space is down at the Vista field. So while Peter was enthusiastic, I don't think he had a full picture of what is in that space, but it is, I do love that field, and hopefully we'll be able to get the water system working there eventually. I know we've had composting toilets there, and we deserve more down in Vista. But the Vista or the town park pickleball courts are planned to go on top of what used to be the tennis courts on the upper level behind the swimming pool. And the plans that have been developed are strong, but they're flexible. So if we don't get the second grant or the third grant, we didn't get the grant, the first DEC grant.
Right, and we applied again.
So this is a reapplication, so hopefully we will get it. And if anyone out there wants to contribute $500,000 for pickleball courts, we will gladly receive it. It's a time of spring and hope, and for whatever you celebrate. I know Holi was on March 5th, as Hindu celebration of good over evil and the welcoming of spring. It's actually how everyone has learned about throwing colors at each other. That started in India, and well, actually, there's a debate whether it started in Egypt or India, but that's neither here nor there. In Lewisboro, the Parks and Rec will be having a color celebration soon, so check the Parks and Rec web for that. And whatever holidays you celebrate, I hope that you just do it with a full heart and open ears to your loved ones and neighbors. And it's an honor to serve.
Thank you, Mary. Rich?
Thanks, Tony. Few points in no particular order. First, thank you to the Housing Committee and the Planning Board for their input on our short-term rental legislation, and the input of the community. You have a good amount of work to do, and we're gonna move forward on that. I'm just have some concerns about potential legislative and regulatory overreach. We don't want to unduly burden our property owners here in town who are utilizing their homes as an economic resource. So we have to keep that in mind as we go through the process. Congratulations and thank you to Cindy Rubino and her retirement. I had the honor to serve with Cindy for my 6 years on the library board, as Mary did for many years, 8 years. So we congratulate her and thank her for her commitment to our town and wish her all the best in her long and healthy and happy retirement. Want to wish everybody who celebrates very happy Easter and happy Passover, both coming up since the first day of spring and it's right behind. So we wish a joyful, peaceful, and great celebrations for everyone who's celebrating Easter and Passover holidays. And last, certainly not least, go St. John's getting into the Sweet 16. It's the St. John's Law graduate. Thank you, Tony.
Okay. Yeah.
Just second also to the thanks to the folks who came and gave us all the input on short-term rental. Hearing was great. It served its purpose and a lot of good offline discussions. I regret that a lot of people got quite anxious about things because you see this and you think, oh, that's it, we're moving, that's what it's going to be. It was, as we explained when we put it out, it was meant to be a framework for that discussion. And now, as you said, Tony, we'll go back and review it, Rich. And no doubt we'll take all this fully into account and try to pick the minimum essential, whatever that may be.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Also, just ditto on the congratulations to Cindy, someone who was. I got my first Lewisboro or South Salem library card back in the 70s. A long time working with Cindy on all kinds of stuff, and gonna miss her.
She wasn't there in the 70s.
She's only been here 23 years.
I was gonna say that, yeah.
She's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thanks, Dan. So yeah, thank you very much, Cindy. I'd just like to know if her husband John will still MC the library fair.
So
You will?
just should have her retire.
Okay, good, okay. So thank you, Mary, for responding to Barbara's question about pickleball and the DC grant. Yes, it's a subsequent grant application. We didn't get the last one. Hopefully we'll have better luck this time. Good idea on the police department, info on the website. I'll give that some thought and see what we can put up there and provide regular updates.
Be in a different place.
Yeah, we'll create a page for police maybe, yeah. Just a status on Oak Ridge. I was there today. I had a meeting at Oak Ridge, the water plant, the water expansion plant. So we're at the final stage, very final stage, I promise. They are submitting, Delaware Engineering are submitting the as-built plans to the health department this week.
What does that mean?
That means that what's been built, they're gonna hand over the paperwork and say, this is it, come and do your inspection.
There's always small changes that occur during the project.
Right,
Those have
and-
to be re-input into the original drawings.
So it includes the.
That's why they call it the as-built, yeah. So some of the tweaks that they had to do and design changes, but it's all done. We are working, or they call it VRI, the plant operator collected the water samples, so we have to go through the part 5 testing, which is the Department of Health's requirements for water testing, which includes testing for PFAS. So we want to make sure that this filter that we put in will remove PFAS from the water. So once that gets approved, it may take another 30 days, hopefully sooner. We can flip the switch and have the water run through the new plant, which looks fantastic. If you go in there, it's all, new computerized system, SCADA system for monitoring. new pumps, backup pumps. I can go into the nuts and bolts of it, but I won't.
Thank you.
What's the final document that they like are licensed to operate or whatever is like?
Yeah,
so
so
they're polls.
They're, well, Speedy's is sewer side. It's both? Okay, well, I know there's the health department, every year we get a permit to operate the water plant, a public water supply. So they will give and I think we're looking at doing this in two parts. We're looking at running the pumps first. Get approval for that pump system, which is a brand new pump system, which replaces the old pumps, which would be a really nice improvement. And then there's the final inspection for the carbon filtration. So it may be a two-step inspection, but either way, it's getting done, hopefully this week. And there's some, minor landscaping work to be done on the exterior of the building. But yeah, looking real good. So that's that. And I think that's all I have. Yeah. So next announcements. We have our next town board meeting here, April 13th, 7:30 p.m. here at the townhouse. So now I'd like to go ahead and motion to go into executive session for an attorney-client privilege discussion.
Personnel.
And personnel, yes. Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.